Storytime on when my father asked me for explicit pictures of myself. Now I won't lie, this one is going to need a bit of a backstory. I grew up with my grandmother because my mother was and still is a drug addict to this day, who is not active in my life. My father was simply a deadbeat, but he did show up for the first time when I was around 15 years old, claiming that he wanted to establish a relationship with me. He stuck around for a month and a half before disappearing. Yeah, I didn't see or hear from him again until I went to college. He ended up randomly calling me out of the blue, asking if we could go to dinner and talk more about building a relationship and mending the distance between us. So I ended up going, even though I didn't want to. But a part of me felt like I just didn't want to go because I was still angry at him for being a crap father. Thanks to my anxiety, I ended up showing up pretty early, but he somehow still managed to get there before me, which made me feel like, wow, he's really invested, I should give him a shot. But the moment I sat down, he started this weird pity party for himself, claiming that he wasn't in my life because my mother was insane. Well, I can't say he was wrong, but mind you, he and his family were keenly aware that my mother dropped me off at my grandmother's house when I was 3 months old and never looked back. And at that point of us talking, I was in college. Even so, he finally opens up to say that he went to the doctor recently and things were not looking good. According to my father, they were running some tests, and he was afraid that he might not be okay, so he felt like mending things with his only child was the most important thing at the time. Now, I won't lie, I thought it was BS, but I couldn't tell if I thought it was BS because it was, or because I was just angry. So I accepted his apology, and agreed to attempt to build a relationship again. But, shocker alert, he disappeared again for 3 months, and I tried everything to get in touch with him, because I thought he had died. I ended up contacting his sister via Facebook, and she finally responded to tell me what his test results said. According to her, he came back with a clean bill of health. So naturally, the reason he stopped talking to me was because he felt like since he was healthy, there was no reason to mend anything between us. Fast forward 6 months later, his sister contacts me claiming that he was begging her for my contact information so that we could get back in touch again. I was going to say no, but instead, I decided to give him an ultimatum that if he jumped out of my life again, he was not going to be allowed back in. He then claimed that he was absent for so long because he was on the brink of being homeless and needed $600 in order to stay afloat. Me being a college student who got a refund check, I didn't mind giving him the money, but in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have. Either way, he ended up calling me that night, claiming that he missed me and that he was sorry for being a deadbeat. I can't lie, I thought that was a turning point for us, because he had actually never apologized for that before. And then he asked me to send him a picture of myself, so I took a regular selfie, super cute, and he responded with, and I quote, "Can you send me another one? I can't see with all of your clothes on." The woman was too stunned to speak, so naturally I hung up on him. Fast forward 4 years later, I hadn't heard from him since that last conversation, so I wrote him a letter. The letter I wrote and mailed to him was basically telling him that I forgave him. I even went into explicit detail of all the things I forgave him for in case he forgot. Even after sending the letter and getting confirmation that he received it, I still didn't hear from him for another 2 years, and you'll never believe what he said. My father ended up calling me. He started off by saying that he didn't appreciate my letter, and even more so, he didn't appreciate the excerpt I wrote about him in my book that I published about my life. Now, the book was my first publication, and I didn't have an editor, so it kinda sucked a little bit, but it was the truth nonetheless. I kindly informed him that if he wanted to write a book and change the narrative, then he could do that. But considering he couldn't keep his own lies straight, it was definitely not recommended. When he started going on a tangent about how he demanded respect from me, I laughed and told him that the conversation was over, and that if he was waiting on respect from me, he would be holding his breath until he died. At that point, I had firmly decided that my father was no longer a part of my life, which wasn't really hard considering he wasn't really a part of my life in the first place. A couple of weeks later, his sister ended up messaging me on Facebook, claiming that my father once again went to the doctor and got some bad news. I sarcastically asked her what it was this time: a heart attack, a stroke, a sudden realization that he was a piece of shit, because I was so fond of these little cliffhangers that she liked to leave me every few years. She, however, did not appreciate my snark and claimed that I needed to respect him, stop calling him by his first name, and forgive him already. I won't lie to you, I lost my cool. I flat out told her that she should be ashamed of herself. As a mother, she was defending her brother for being a deadbeat father, not to mention defending the fact that he was low-key a pedophile, and that I'm pretty sure they've known he's been this way his entire life, and instead of helping him, they've enabled him, and I was not interested in joining their team to do that. I kindly told her that she was now blocked, and I'd appreciate it if she didn't send me any more messages from him, because unlike most people, I believe in shooting the messenger, because it sends a message, doesn't it? Either way, I've enjoyed the radio silence for the past few years. That is, until last year, when one of my father's exes called me, and you'll never believe what she told me.